All right, everybody, so this is assignment 15.3, number 1, or example 1. So 15.3, example 1. All right, so this is one that you can't do. You've got to pick 3 others, and they're really not that hard. It shouldn't be too time-consuming. So first step is to do a macro analysis, all right? This will give you an idea of where the chords are going and what maybe doesn't belong, right? So if we look at this, it does give us that we're in the key of G major, all right? So we'll put that down, and it gives us our first chord, which is a 1 chord, all right? So if we're going to do a macro analysis of the 1 chord, we'll call it just a simple G major, right? So G major, or you can do just capital G. If we look at the next chord, we've got a D and an A. It's probably D, F, A. And also it gives us it tells us whether there's going to be a sharp or an inversion. So the rest we have to assume are in root position, all right? So here we've got a D major chord. If we go down here, we also have to assume that it's in root position. So it's going to be G major, again, back to G. And then here, we get something interesting. We have an A and a little sharp telling us that the third is going to be raised to C sharp. So we've got A, C sharp, E. So an A major chord, which theoretically should not exist in the key of G major, right? Because there's no C sharp in G major. So keep that in mind. Now our next chord is another G major chord, right? So we've got G, but it's a G major first inversion. So G major 6 chord, G, B, D. Next chord, D, F sharp, A probably, so D major. Again, we get our weird A major chord with a C sharp. And then finally, last but not least, we get a D major chord, D and D. So D major. All right, so this is our microanalysis. Now, here is where maybe things seem a little different. And this is when we need to take note that this is a place where there's a potential modulation. So let's add in our Roman numeral analysis now. So already the first chord tells us we've got a 1 chord. If we're in G major, D major would be a major 5 chord, right? 5. If we're still in G major, this is going to be 1 chord again, back to 1. Now here, A major in the key of G major is going to be a major 2 chord, which we know does not exist in D major. But let's keep going for the sake of analysis. All right, so back to G major. So we've got a 1-6 chord. In G major, this D major is going to be a 5 chord. Seems pretty normal. Again, we get this weird A major chord, large 2. And then finally, last but not least, we end on a 5, which would mean that we end on a half cadence, which is okay. But this is a little weird. These guys right here tell me something is up. So, what are the possible keys that would have a C major in it that this could go to? So the possibilities are D major, right, which has F sharp and C sharp, and then D major's relative minor, which is B minor, all right? So let's try analyzing this in B minor first, all right? So if this is B minor, come down here, right, B, just a little B, like that, and then let's analyze these chords in key of B minor. All right, so in B minor, an A major chord is going to be major 7 chord, which can happen. That's acceptable. And then the G major in B minor, 6 chord, major 6 chord, technically acceptable. D major in B minor is, let's see, major 3 chord, and A major again, major 7 chord. Oh, and this is going to be a 6. So 6-6, major 6-6. And then finally, D major again, we get a 3 chord. So that's not really a cadence. It's a little weird. And there aren't really, remember our rule is when we modulate, we want to establish right away lots of tonics and dominants to establish our key. And there are no tonics and dominants in this one. So let's say B minor, probably not. Let's try its other sister key, which I think is going to be much more successful, D major. So let's assume that this maybe went to D major. All right? So D major, A major is a 5 chord, dominant 5. Pretty nice. Not bad. All right? In D major, the key of G major is a major 4 chord. See those all the time. Pretty common. Oh, check that out. D major, 1 chord. Back to 5. And finally 1. This gives us a perfect authentic cadence. So my thought is, more than likely, when we get to here, we modulate to D major. And this is how we determine this. So after your analysis, you can basically erase this part. All right? You can erase all the macro analysis. And then you're left with this, which is much cleaner. Except for this. Well, bam. There we go. All right. So this is what you're getting at. Now, from there, we can fill in all of the notes. Now that we know what we're truly analyzing, what the true chords are going to be. So it's just a matter of following typical voice leading patterns. So you don't want parallel fifths. You don't want to do any of, no parallel fifths, no parallel octaves. Follow the voice leading procedures. So if you're going from 1 to 5 and you jump down, you want to maintain a common tone if you can. If the bass is moving up or down stepwise, you want the other 3 voices to either, in this case, move down, or in a case where it moves down, you want it to, of course, the other 3 to move up stepwise to the nearest note. So the rest is just regular voice leading stuff that we've done a million times. So if you have any questions about that, do let me know. And then, so pick 3 of those and see how you do. And then we're going to skip over to 15.8, and I'll do the first one of that as well. So in 15.8, we're only given a bass line. So here's our bass. And we've got B flat, so we're in the key of F major, it tells us. Cut time or common time. All right, so we have F. Bear with me for a sec. Oops, 4 notes. Yep, and then pick up. All right, so in this case, we're given the bass line. Told that that's the first inversion. We've got another first inversion right here. And this is a natural sign telling us that the third, again, is going to be probably raised since we're in a flat key signature. All right, so before we even start, basically what you're going to do is the exact same analysis that we just did, except you're missing the soprano. but you're still given all of the information you need. So let's do a basic key analysis of this, all right? And you just assume that if you're an F major, unless otherwise stated, it's going to follow the typical chord pattern of major 1, minor 2, right? And then minor 3, major 4, just what naturally falls into the key signature. Minor 6, diminished 7, and then 1, right? So this is what it should be. And if it suddenly doesn't look like that, then you know that something's up, probably modulation. All right, so let's do straight up a macro analysis, just so we can get an idea. So we've got an F major chord, all right? 6th chord here, so that tells us that this is actually going to be a C major chord. So C, here we're back to F. Now we go down to D, right? So we've got a D, what we can assume is maybe major, maybe minor. We don't know yet. All right, then we go up to A. So we've got an A chord, maybe minor. And we're back to F, up to G. And then finally we end on C. All right? So that's our macro analysis. Now when we look at the actual Roman numeral analysis, it will help us decide what's what. All right, so in this case, our F chord is going to be a 1 chord if we're analyzing purely in the key of F. All right, so let's go through and do it just in F. And when things get weird, we'll go back and figure out where that spot is and then start analyzing in a different key. All right, so our C chord, that makes perfect sense. 5 chord, right? Go back to F, that's a 1. Go to D. So in the key of F, we've got F, G, A, B, C, D. So this should be a minor 6 chord. All right? So D minor. And now we go to A. So F, G, so here's F, G, A, B, C, D, E, and finally F. All right? It should be capital B, C, D natural, small d, E, and F. And I totally suggest making one of these for all of this analysis because it actually helps quite a bit. So we've got our 6th chord right here, D minor. Now we go to A, so find your A, 3 chord, all right, so that should be A minor. All right, which is a little sketchy. Now we're back to F though, so call that major, and it's going to be a 1/6 chord because of that. All right, and then we've got a G, which is a little strange. Oops, G, there we go. So that's going to be a 2 chord, and it's going to be a major 2 chord because it's telling us that we're going to have B natural, right? So we're going to have G, B natural, and D as our triad, all right? So this guy is a little strange, all right? And then finally, we end on C, which is a 5 chord. So it would technically be kind of a weird half cadence, but a half cadence nonetheless.